All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the locker room on this beautiful Monday night, October the 30th. As we are at the end of the month of October, which has been a absolute great month. The focus has been on leadership this month, and churches and ministries everywhere have been honoring leaders this month. And so we want to go ahead and shout out all of the leadership here in Western New York and let you know all of the pastors and the bishops and leaders who serve the church at Buffalo. We want to tell you, from all of us here at the locker room, we want to tell you personally, thank you. And we appreciate you for all that you have done, all that you have been to the church community here in Buffalo, here in Western New York, and even abroad. We want to thank you for your service. We want to thank you for your commitment to the Lord and the commitment you've made to the Lord's people. And we honor you. And we hope that you have had a great month. We hope that you have felt appreciated. And we hope that you have felt loved on this month. And so with that, we are back. The locker room is here. Thank you, everyone who is logged on, who is joining us in the locker room. And what I would like to do is ask everyone who is logged on and join us both on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter, if you would go ahead and just hit that share button and share this broadcast so that all of your friends and followers can join you on this conversation. We are in for a great conversation tonight. I am excited about all of the guests that we have tonight. Man, I've been waiting for this day. I've been just excited for this conversation. And so we are going to go ahead and bring our guest panelists on. We're going to introduce them and bring them on to the stream now. And I first want to introduce this young lady. Known her since she was a youngster here in the Buffalo area, and her family is a well-known family all over the place. I mean, everybody in the family can sing something, can play something. Everybody in the family can just do something, and they do it great. They're great at it. Like it's not even fair how good and great they are at what they do. And this young lady has really, really just come into her own. She's in the TV and film industry. She has her own shows and series out on YouTube, on her YouTube channel. And she is just doing some awesome and amazing things, and looking forward to seeing more great things come to her. And so I want to bring onto the stream my first guest panelist for the night, all the way from Atlanta, GA, Miss Alesha Brinson. Alesha, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Super excited to be here. And yeah, I'm ready to get into this good conversation.
Awesome. So our next guest panelist we have, I've been knowing another one. I've been knowing him for years now, very years now. He's a fellow musician, much like myself. And we've been doing for a long time. He also comes from an extremely talented family. Everybody plays something or sings in that family. Everybody does something, and they're very, very good. They're very great at it. I mean, his dad is like the GOAT for us. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, his dad will play you into a corner on that organ or that piano. It don't matter. Okay. And we all bow down. It's like when he walks in, you just bow down. You just bow down. And so, but I appreciate the brotherhood and friendship that I have had with him for all these years that we have had. both in ministry and in music. And so I want to bring onto the stage my friend and brother. We call him Little Man here in Buffalo, but his name is James Bowman the second. My brother, what's going on, man?
What's good? What's good, my brother? Everything is good here. Happy to be here. Looking forward to a wonderful time.
Awesome, awesome. And next but not least, this young lady is very near and dear to my heart. Um, Everybody has like this one person that is close to you, and you don't have to really say anything, but the moment you guys come in contact, you don't have to say anything. They already know. They know what to say. They know what to pray. They know what to say over your life. They know what to say to get you snapped back. And she is that one person for me outside of my wife. Outside of my wife, she is that number two person for me that I don't have to say anything. She just already knows. And this is a relationship that has grown over the years. She is an extremely talented and accomplished musician, and accomplished singer, and accomplished educator. I don't know if there's anything she hasn't done, and she's not finished yet. She has been everywhere, all over the country. She has been everywhere doing some great things in music, in culture, in arts, in stage. And I have the utmost respect for her, not only as a professional, but also as a person. And I'm so glad that she's going to be with us tonight on the locker room. And so I want to introduce my friend, my sister, Miss Karen Saxon. Karen, how are you?
I am well, my brother, and I do have one answer. The one thing I haven't done is sleep.
I understand. I understand. I do. I do. I do. I do. Thank you for being here. And I hope that you get that sleep that you've been needing to get. Yes, indeed. And lastly, I want to introduce this young man. I met him over social media by way of Clubhouse when the pandemic started and we were home, and so everyone was just kind of, had to meet through apps and had to meet through, other means. And I met him on Clubhouse, went into his room one day and sat in there, and it was just good times, just really good times. And I appreciate how our friendship has begun to grow over these last couple of years, and I respect him. He's another one. He's very talented. He's a great preacher, pastor, mentor to many, and I am just excited that he has joined us tonight on the locker room, all the way from Alabama. I believe it's Jackson, Alabama. I want to introduce to everyone my friend and brother, Pastor Thaddeus Douglas. Pastor Thad, how are you, sir?
Well, praise the Lord. I'm glad to be here and looking forward to being in the locker room. I put on my Adidas so I could feel like this is definitely a sports uh, expression, and, looking forward. And I've already sweated. So, because I'm with your brother. It's good to see all of you all. Blessings to you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you all for joining us. And so we're gonna get right into the conversation. And so the title of tonight's locker room is "I Didn't Ask for This." I ain't asked for it. They didn't ask me if I wanted it. I didn't get a chance to vote. And we talking from the heart of the PK. And from most of the pastor's kids that I have talked to, all of them said that my father didn't ask me if he was okay with me being a pastor. He didn't check in with me. I didn't get a vote. He just came home and said, I'm going into pastoring. And that was kind of the end of it. And so most I believe, from what I have heard, because I did not grow up as a pastor's kid, but from what I have heard, that's the plight of most of them, is that, hey, it got thrown on me. I had to deal with it. I had to figure it out whether I liked it or I didn't. And here I am. But the truth is, I didn't ask for it. And I didn't know because I didn't know what was coming with it. I didn't know what we were going to encounter, didn't know what I was going to have to deal with, but I just got thrown into it. And it's like, okay, here we are. And so that's been the general consensus from the pastor's kids that I have spoken to personally. This is what they've kind of told me. And so so tonight, as I said in the beginning, I wanted to put a spotlight on the sons and daughters because sometimes they get forgotten about. Sometimes they get kind of pushed aside because all of the focus is on their father or their mom, who's the pastor. So all the focus goes there. But then sometimes the children and the rest of the family kind of get left out sometimes. So tonight, I wanted to hear from the hearts of those who are PKs and have been PKs. And we wanted to see how you have dealt with this experience. So the first thing I want to ask is, and I want to start with you, Karen, is I want to ask this. How did you feel when you just got told, hey, I'm a pastor? And that's kind of the end of it. How did you feel? What was going through your mind?
Honestly, I don't think I ever was told. I really don't. It just became a thing, you know. But I have to give my father his credit. He was always to me my father. And I think, I mean, of course, now when I was going through my stuff, and I know no one else went through this but me. When I was going through my stuff and I was all melodramatic and I was young and I didn't know how things went. And to be clear, my relationship with Christ wasn't fully formed. Okay. So that I had my little attitudinal time, rebellious spell, blah, blah, blah. But I have to give my father his credit. He never approached me as the pastor. Because I grew up in church, I knew how to behave in church. Now, whether I actually did that all the time, you know, the Lord knows. But I have to give him his credit. He always dealt with me as his daughter, and he always saw me. So that the only time I felt the weight of the pastorate was when people tried to make me feel it. It did not necessarily come from my father. In fact, it did not come from my father. And it was interesting that when you asked me to talk about this, no, I didn't ask for this. I was chosen for this. So that as I grew in the Lord in my own relationship with Him, and as my Father released me to be who God uniquely called me to be, that weight, that obligation was taken off my shoulders because He didn't put it there.
That's good. That's good. Come on, Jane. We'll go to James, then we'll go to Alesha, then Pastor Thaddeus.
I think my sister Karen, she hit the nail on the head. You know, it's one of those things where, as she already mentioned, it wasn't something, you know, you had a choice with, or you had to, you know, it just wasn't there. I do recall when my father started pastoring in '83. I was very young. I was very young, so it was something I had to learn along the way, and it wasn't, you know, I was definitely way too young to have any understanding. However, that being said, I was, you know, on both sides of my family, both grandparents were pastors. So there was a level of understanding, and I was, you know, acclimated to a degree. But when he took that role on, you know, it was just something like, what does this mean? And as I had to, you know, go throughout life, I understood that, all right, that's why I was very happy when my brother Blair reached out about this particular topic. I said that, you know, typically I stay away from forums like these because, you know, I kind of feel left out, but this one spoke to my spirit. So I felt attached. And you know, it was, again, it's just one of those things where um it just hits you. It just hits you and you just go with it. I use a word I learned several months ago. I was kind of voluntold to be in this particular capacity. It wasn't a choice. It was just thrown at you.
All right. Come on, Alesha.
Yeah, so just like Miss Karen was saying, I was never told that, by my father. It's 14 of us. I'm child number 12, right? So I was kind of born into it. So all my life I've seen my parents serve, my daddy serve, and but I will say that was always my daddy. He taught us how to behave, how to act and carry ourselves. So it was second nature. It wasn't honestly until I started to grow up, get older and make my own choices. That's when I felt the weight and the spotlight of being a PK kid, like you said, because then people start to judge you. So it didn't start at home. It started as I got older and I made decisions that others did not agree with. Or if it didn't look like church, then I was no longer saved. Or if it didn't look like God, then who is she? How can she be this and her daddy is that? And so when I went to try to find my own identity, that's when I got the scrutiny from everyone else. So it was, no, I didn't choose this. But it has taught me so much. It has taught me so much. Oh my God. So yeah, I'm not gonna say too much yet, but there you go.
All right, no, that's fine. Come on, Pastor Thaddeus.
Well, let me say this. I got to agree with everyone. My dad, actually, yesterday, Dad turned 80. Dad retired from one church, pastoring 40 years and like 6 months, another church, 24 years and 6 months, or 26 years and 4 months, something of that nature. The Grove Hill Missionary Baptist Church of Uriah, Mackey Branch #1 Baptist Church of Gosport, Alabama. We in the country, Blair. And in the country, everybody know everybody. You know what I'm saying? And I grew up 5th generation Douglas preacher, Baptist and Apostolic. National Baptist USA, AOH, and PAW. It wasn't no quote unquote being told, you're born in it. I'm all my father's children, and my mom played organ. My mom played organ at our home church, where she, grew up at. But on some Sundays, I would just go with Dad. Growing up under Dad's tutelage and his leadership, you just kind of find out, what to answer to and what not to answer to, what to subscribe to, what to connect to, and what to ignore in a fine and graceful manner. You know, you have to learn how to do it, because one thing about me is growing up, because I felt like if someone give you conversation, that there should be a level of exchange and response, when I did not understand that some people just wanted to pick and try to find out any negative point of view to try to scandalize and speak ruin your life, your name. Definitely growing up in ministry, beautiful thing. But it's like what Malachi said. Malachi said it's a burden. It's Beauty and the Beast, literally. I definitely pay homage to my dad, and the blessing that he has given to me, because even though he's retired, Dad never slowed down. He's still preaching. He's still going places. Folks still calling them left and right. You know what I'm saying? But it's a beautiful expression. But being a PK is one of the hardest things in the world, because you get looked at in a magnifying glass. Y'all know where I'm coming from. The spot. As I think Alesha just said, the spotlight is on you at all times. Not the mayor, not the representative, not the senator's daughter or sister, but it's on you. because God got an extra whatever on you than them, so, but
that was good. And I appreciate even what Alesha said, and Pastor Dash, even you were saying about the spotlight being on you, and um and um and everyone again having their own perception, having their own ideology of what they think it is, and how they think things are, and the way that they should go. And so with you all having been born into it, and not having any say about whether you're okay with it, or whether you are cool with it, let me ask you this: at any point during growing up into it, did your parents ever have the conversation with you about how you viewed it, what you thought about it, how did you feel? Did you ever have that conversation with your parents? And so I want to start with James this time. We'll go to Pastor Thaddeus and then Alesha.
That's a great question. I think that's a very good question, and it's one that might really push persons who are currently pastoring or pursuing pastoring or have an ambition to pastor or lead, any people in any capacity, to have that conversation. I cannot recall, to be honest with you, I cannot recall my father ever saying, how do you feel about me pastoring, or one of those things. I do recall having my opinions about it, you know what I mean? But I don't think I was ever, I don't remember ever having a conversation about, what do you feel about this, or la da 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 da. I've had conversations from other people and asking me, what do you feel about your father or your parents or your grandparents being in ministry, or, pastoring, or all these different things. And, again, I had my answers and my opinions about it, but I don't remember or recall ever having, someone ever questioning, or at them questioning me about, how do I feel about it? How do you think this looks? How do you think this will affect you, and all that type of stuff? It was just one of those things where, as Alesha alluded to earlier, that you just kind of just wore, and you just took on, and you just walked in it. As Pastor Douglas mentioned, you just kind of walked in it, and you just accepted it, and and it processes you. You know what I'm saying? You learn, you navigate through it, and it was just one of those things where, you know, you see it, and you take it, and you go with it.
Good. Come on, Alesha.
Yeah, no, I have not had that conversation with my parents ever, actually. That's a really good question. I do think that conversation should be had. Not that what the child say would deter them from their calling, because, well, whether we like it or not, God has called them to be, whether we agree or disagree. But I think it is good to hear from your children, to see how they feel, or how are you being treated, or So no, I haven't had that conversation, not ever.
Okay, all right, Pastor Thaddeus.
No. No. And my dad was 50 something when he had me. It wasn't no talking. Whatever dad did, that's it. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, like I said, I'm fifth generation. So his brother was a preacher. His great uncle was a preacher, and long down the line, and it wasn't no conversation. The only conversation I had with my dad really about ministry was when I got called to preach. I was 12 years old, had a dream, saw myself preaching, right? And got scared, got worried. Really know the Lord ain't never talked to me. And I talked to him, but I ain't never got no answer, really, if you know the truth. But and I went to my dad and told him, I said, hey, look, I had a dream I was preaching. He looked at me, turned away, kept watching TV, said, all right, well, keep talking to the Lord. That was it. And that went on for 4 years. And the last time I talked to him for real, for real. I told him, I said, Dad, I've been called to preach. And, my dad at the time, because we were, like I said, my mom, so we was at our home church. So I was up under the leadership of the late Reverend Dr. D.W. Moore, Mount Olive number 2 Baptist Church. And like I said, my dad pastored 2 other churches. And I said, Dad, I've been called to preach. Pastor Moore said, he already got me in training, this, that, and the other. He's showing me different things. He said, I know, I told him to. He said, but you ain't ready. That was it. Whatever Dad said, that's what went. And I left from my dad's bedside crying. And he told me some other things that I really cannot say on this here, locker room place. You hear what I said? And he told me, he said, you're just, and I went and I prayed and I cried. And for my apostolic folks, start tarrying, calling on Jesus, and start speaking tongues and got filled with the Holy Ghost. About 3 weeks later, my daddy came and knocked on my door and said, you ready now? And that's it. I ain't never talked to him about him preaching, him pastoring, anything of that nature. Whatever Dad said, that's what went. And then, you just learn from that. You learn from how experience. Experience teaches you things that conversations won't, if you get what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's good. Wow. So none of you never had that conversation.
Not ever.
Wow. So, okay, so let me ask you this, because I know, James, you say you had your opinions about it, and Alesha, I want to say that you probably had your feelings or opinions about it. So the fact that was never a conversation, or that it was never, or that how you felt or saw it was not considered, how did that make you feel? Because you never had that conversation. So go ahead. We'll start with Alesha and go right on around. Alesha, Pastor Thaddeus, and then we'll come back to Jane.
Okay. How did it make me feel? So in my household, my daddy was really big on calling. Your calling. If this is your calling, you do what God tells you to do. So I understood that at a really young age. My daddy is 88. So I understand, Pastor Thaddeus, when you say, well, daddy say kind of go, you don't really, I could talk to my mama about it more so. My daddy say, you don't really combat with him at all. But I never had an issue with his calling. I knew his calling covered our family. It kept us out of some things. If something wasn't right, my daddy would get us all up and to pray. And you know what I'm saying? So I'm so grateful for the calling. It wasn't negative. I think the only thing that really bothered me more so is how much I seen them give. All my life, I've seen my parents give, whether they were sick or tired or didn't have it, they will find a way to give and serve. And I felt, I just wanted my parents to rest. I think that was the hardest thing, if anything. But I knew that also the calling was keeping my father alive all of these years. It gave him something to live for. Of course, he had my mama and my siblings and things like that. But so I understood it early, that this is something he had to do. My only thing was, I wish that he could rest. I wish that he could receive as much as he gives, as much as he pour out. So I think that's the toughest thing I had towards his calling. Now, there's other things where how people treated me or my siblings or what they had to say. That's a different feeling. But towards what he had to do, what God told him to do, all day I'm gonna say, you do what God said. So yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely. That was good. It's something you said too, but we're gonna come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Pastor Thaddeus, and then James. Turn your mic on. There you go.
Look here. No, you can go right back to what you was just talking about. I can wait, because that was good. They ride that wave there.
All right. James, come on, jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready. I'm ready because Alesha said something that's the real caveat in this whole locker room when it comes to all of this. But it's really just at the end of the day, it's really more about um it's we can speak freely.
Speak freely.
Okay. Okay. Now, now, because you said that, now say what's the top? I'm sorry. What's the question again? Because I want to make
I,
sure that I've answered it.
the question was how did it make you feel?
Okay.
Because you never had the conversation about how do you feel about daddy being a pastor? How do you feel about mom being a pastor? Because you never had that conversation, how did that make you feel?
So the truth is, I remembered the question, but I wanted you to say it again, so it's my response is prefaced the right way.
Yes,
To
sir.
be 100% honest with you, I didn't like it. I didn't like it because the reality of it is this. Now, this is just James talking. I didn't like it because I felt like it boxed me in. It put me in a place where I felt like I was constricted and restricted. You know what I mean? And in life, as a young man growing up in the 80s and in the 90s and stuff like that, there were more there was a lot more ridicule than I was able to handle at a young age. With being a PK, it was more like, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't say that, you can't go here, you can't be with this person. There was all these like limitations. And as a kid growing up, you know what I mean? And of course, I've matriculated and I've learned and I've overcome a lot of that stuff. I no longer live in those limitations because I understand better now. But as a young kid, with that question never being posed, as we talked about a few minutes ago, how does this make you feel, or blah 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 blah? If that with that question never coming about, those answers or those that foresight was never kind of put on me. Like, okay, these are some things you got to watch out for. These are some things you got to look out for. People are going to say this all this type of stuff about you. They're going to make you feel like this, la da 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 da. And kids, as a child, we undergo all of that, and we don't really have an outlet except. So we're kind of
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
forced or segued back into the same thing. We're kind of like, or let me talk about me. I was kind of segued or forced right back into the thing. I was like, man, I don't like this. I want to go out and have some fun. I want to go here. I want to go there. Nah, what you're going to do is go to Tuesday night Bible study, Friday night service, Sunday morning Sunday school, Sunday morning church service, Sunday afternoon, whatever it was, Sunday night service, blah, 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 blah. And you're going to rinse and repeat the same thing over and over and over again. So it almost, if I wasn't careful, but back then it kind of made me jaded. So I hated it. But I really didn't understand. It was just, you know what I'm saying, my own idiosyncrasies as a kid. So that's how I felt.
That's good. That's good. That's fair. And I appreciate, because what you said is also some of the sentiments of what I have been told by other preachers' kids, that they felt boxed in. They felt like there was just things they couldn't do. They couldn't date or deal with this person because of XYZ. And so I want to go ahead, because y'all have kind of pushed me there, because I wasn't gonna go there this quick. But we're gonna get dicey. We're gonna get a little dicey here. So Alesha, you said something that you didn't like, the fact that your father gave so much but didn't necessarily get the same in return. And so as PKs, you oftentimes you watch your parents, your father, give to these people at the church. And then you also have to watch or listen to them dog the same person that just gave. He just took from my house to give to your house. And you gonna dog them for real? This where we at. So in that kind of situation, how did you manage that? Because I know that can be tough, because even though they serve as a role as pastor, that's still your daddy. That's still your mama. That's still the person that you'll fight over. You'll run somebody over. You'll shoot somebody over them mistreating your father. And a lot of times pastors are mistreated, and their families sometimes have to be there witnessing it, and and dad won't let you do nothing, won't let you say nothing. You can't say that, you can't do that, you're gonna embarrass me, you're gonna you. And so how did y'all manage those situations? So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna bring Pastor Thaddeus in and then we'll bring Alesha and then James. So let's talk about, how did you manage that?
You know, Blair, you wrong. You're wrong on several accounts. In 3 minutes, and this what I'm about to talk about is a whole life story. Do you hear what I'm? This is 4 years watching dad bail folk out of jail, put his name, put his name up, for people's, and if somebody was about to get arrested, he show up at the scene and the police know Reverend Douglas, so they say because he a chaplain with the sheriff department, we just gonna go ahead and let you go free. And the same folk would disrespect and dog out my dad later on. Nice. My dad is not so out. He's not so soft spoken. He's very outspoken because he's in politics. You get what I'm saying? But being a community leader, it is an automatic invitation for you to have to be present at all times for everyone, giving of yourself to everyone, and not so much being able to give of yourself to your own people. We went on vacations, but it wasn't that many. Oh, praise his name. You hear what I say? Sometimes vacations got cut because somebody done died. And it wasn't just because we owned our funeral home, but in the area where dad pastored, sometimes daddy gotta go and he gotta bury mother such family said they don't want nobody to bury. Pastor Douglas is gonna come back, fly in, drive in, and bury mother. That a lot of me and my baby sister childhood, I wouldn't say it got taken away, but it got clipped, if you get what I mean. Let's just be real. And let me hit this real quick, Blair. Oh Jesus, I feel so bad. I feel like I'll have to come back because let's just Blair, folk don't understand the trophy where dad would bless preachers, license and ordain folk. And I would even tell dad, now dad, honestly, they really don't want to be a son or a daughter you or a daughter to you. They just want your blessing because it makes them look better. That's a whole nother conversation. Some folk will try to use your name to make themselves look good, so it gravitate a level of people to possibly follow them. I watched my dad pastor and give, like Alesha was talking about, and my brother was talking about, but definitely what Alesha was saying, give and give and give and give. And I apologize, I don't went over my time. And when I tell you the God on the truth, I seen folk try to split the church. And the same folk that leave be the same ones to come back. And when they come back, then it's, You know, we love Pastor Douglas, this, that, and the other. We gonna stay with the church, this, that, and the other. And then you had some folk, you know, I came on assignment, but you know, the assignment was 2 weeks. All of a sudden, they season is up and stirred up more mess in hell. Then a little bit, oh, I done said.
No, you good. You good. That's what it is.
I know Alesha is dying laughing. I'm sorry. Alesha, go. I told you.
No, I understand it. I didn't think that was a curse word. Okay, but I I understand what you're saying. It's a little bit different for me because yes, I like I said, I seen my daddy give. I seen my mom serve. And I just thought it was just unfair. Now, as far as people talking bad about him, Blair, can you ask the question one more time so I can make sure I'm answering this correctly?
I said, how did you manage it?
Oh, okay.
Personally,
Yes.
how did you manage it?
Okay. So like I said, I'm kid number 12, right? So I'm a baby most of the time. So I've watched my daddy handle it. How he handled it, I kind of followed suit. Because no, I didn't want to embarrass. No, I didn't want to put any shame on his name or the church or my family. So if I seen him handle it with grace, I tried to do the same. I come from a family of protectors. So if it was anything bigger than me, I had siblings that was older than me, my brothers, that would take care of certain things. Certain things wouldn't even get down to us, but I did see what was unfair. But honestly, not even that I had to handle it. I think it opened my eyes to people. Because I had this shield over my face and I thought that church was perfect. If you at church, then you perfect. I ain't got to worry about it because I'm at church. And, you know, everybody good at church. And then as I got older and then as things were brought or I so happened to walk in on certain things, it just showed me that, okay, no one is perfect. Everybody is flawed. Okay, so I think that those experiences showed me there's no need to try to be perfect for imperfect people. That's what it really showed me. It just showed me the faces of people. So as far as handling it, I followed my parents' footsteps. I've never been a big fighter, but I will for my parents. No, I will for my parents, but I've seen how they handled it with grace. And if anything that I couldn't handle, like I said, I had older siblings that handled the things that I couldn't. So that answers your question.
Yeah, it really did. And I'm gonna have James jump in here because my whole point of asking how to manage it is because I know that there have been times that you have had to smile at someone.
Oh God.
That you know had a knife ready to shove it in your father's back.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, how did y'all manage that? Because I know mentally and even spiritually, that can be a thing because it's like, I don't want to smile at you. I want to lay hands on you like right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so James, come on, jump in here. We talking real talk. And I see we got a lot of folks on that are PKs that are chiming in. And so you are definitely speaking the sentiments of their heart in the chat. So come on, James, talk to us.
Well, again, you know, what could you do? You know what I mean? It's one of those things where, like Alesha she shared, you kind of learn. There's two facets to it. There's two sides to it. Let me say it that way. There's one side where you know you're learning how to you know almost repress yourself. You know what I mean? Almost you're learning how to, like, as the Bible talks about, biting your tongue. You know what I mean? You're learning how to do all of these things, and there's another side of it where, you know, you get out in the open and you really want to lean into somebody, or you really want to go ahead and put your hands on them, you know, and cuss them out. Let's just be honest. And if I take a real retrospective look at at things. That's something that I witnessed and experienced multiple times over. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where I began to use the words, Lord, if you ever call me to pastor, I'm not going to do like that. You know what I mean? If that's ever the calling for me, I'm not dealing with these people like maybe my father dealt with them. One thing I will say about my father personally, in terms of him dealing with people and, knowing people are, uh, treating him wrong and doing him dirty, if I could say it that way. One thing I learned from my father is his level of patience is extremely long. And so much so to the point where he'll allow somebody, and this is just his demeanor. He'll allow somebody all the string in the world, all the rope in the world, and all you're gonna do is hang yourself. You know what I mean? He doesn't. One thing I've learned from he's not gonna he's not spiteful, and he's not vengeful, but he will, like, okay, this is what you're gonna keep doing. I'm gonna let you do it. I'm gonna let you do it. And then at one point in time, you know, God is going to take care of me. You know how the word talks about vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And so he really champions that particular thing. And he's very patient. But me watching that happen, I'm upset. I'm upset. There's some things going on, recently that have been, very near and dear and hurtful. But, I'm learning in this thing, like, James, just keep your mouth shut. James, just keep your mouth shut. When the reality of it is, I want to go take these people in the room and be like, look, man, you got one more time, or that was your last time. You know what I mean? And it's a process, and it hurt. It really does hurt.
Yeah. I get it. I mean, I can only imagine because I know for myself, even with my own father, of course, when he was living, and even my own parents, that you only get so much that you gonna say to them, or you only gonna get so much that you gonna do before you and I gonna have to have a conversation. And it may not be a conversation, but you and I gonna have to have some type of engagement because this gonna have to stop somewhere. Because my dad was the same type. My father I've never seen a more patient man. I mean, just like, but the other side to my dad was, when you got him to his limit, look out. Like, look out, like, whoa, watch out. And so, with that being said, and you all having to really, if dad doesn't say nothing, I ain't saying nothing, even though I want to, and having to learn how to repress yourself and get back, because of what you see, what you hear. And this is coming a lot of times from the very people they serve, and the very people that they love on and do so much stuff for, that most of the time nobody knows that they have done a lot of this stuff for people. And so my question to you all, in keeping with that, I really want to ask this, and this is probably going to be hard for most people to hear when they hear your answers. But we're talking in truth tonight. We be in truth and we're being real. So I want to ask you, do you all feel that you have been properly loved and treated by the church that your daddy or your mom served? Do you feel that you have been loved and treated the right way, being the family of the pastor, by the church that they served, or by the people, by the community, by the fellowship, or what have you, that they served? So I'm not going to pick anybody. Whoever wants to jump in first, jump right on in.
I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I just, now.
Be careful, Lisa. Be careful.
I'm being real careful. But now, when you said, do you feel like you have been properly loved and cared for? I'm about to say, yeah, but then you said by the church. No. No. Because once upon a time I thought we were being loved and taken care of. That was in my younger years when I didn't see anything. I thought, the ones that my parents took care of, they became family. So like, oh yeah, I got more siblings, I got cousins, I got friends, I got this, I had that. But as I got older, like I said, and I started to choose my path and my journey and I then started hearing people put their mouths on me, on what they thought I should be, or my family. I then realized that I was boxed. Like, oh wow. And if I broke out of the box at all, I was talked about. And I just realized the church, this is not for everybody in the church, but I've realized in my experience, the church really don't know how to take care. To be honest, because church has a definition of how people should look and be and sound and what they should wear and who they, So if it's outside of that box, they don't know how to love. They don't know how to accept and talk to and minister to. It's like it's a certain crowd, is a certain look that I found the church caters to. When I step out of that look and that box, like I keep saying, they didn't know how to approach me. They didn't know how to embrace me when I was falling and when I was drowning, when I had a baby out of wedlock. They didn't know how to love me anymore if I wasn't. So no, I didn't feel like the church did a good job in taking care because of the pedestal they placed me on. I was too high for them to even love and see. So no.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Anybody else want to jump in? And I see, and I just wanted to read just some of the comments that have been put into on Facebook just regarding this. I want to read one, and I won't say anyone's name, but I want to read this. One of the comments says, "We weren't treated horrible, but could have been treated better. When people honor the pastor, the whole first family should be included because the sacrifice is great." One other pastor's kid says, "Definitely been taken for granted." And so that's the sentiments of some of the folks who have commented on Facebook. So between Pastor Thaddeus and James, whoever wants to go in this spot, we just gonna talk about it. Whoever wants to go can go.
I think Pastor just pointed to me, so I'm going to be obedient to the pastor. You know what? That's a great question, and it is a little, just being very truthful. It's a very sensitive one, and it's not. You're right. It's not easy to answer in the form of making it presentably pretty. It's not easy to answer. Truth of the matter is, everything could be better, as somebody mentioned in the comment. It's not horrible, but it could be better. It's one of those fine lines where, in my younger years, there were definitely some times or some seasons or some years of being overlooked or being, just kind of cast aside, or, let me say it this way. One of the biggest things that I never appreciated growing up, from up until right around high school, maybe a little after high school. One of the things that just irked me and burnt me time and time again was when somebody would introduce me and they would say, "Oh, that's James and Kathy Bowman's son." Instead of saying, "Oh, that's James." You know what I'm saying? So that was one of the things where, like, it was like, man, I got a name. You know what I'm saying? I do have a name. Like, yes, we have the same name, but I got my own name, type of thing. And I felt that was one of the things that was very, very, I thought it was disrespectful. to be completely honest with you, and I thought it was very, rude, to be honest. It was very rude. And so that was one of the things that happened time and time again. And then as time went on, I outgrew that mindset, to be honest with you. And I began to look at it as like a plus instead of a minus. But there are a lot of occasions where, it was just like, yeah, y'all get the scraps. Everybody come before y'all. Y'all got to go wait off to the side. No, you got to wait till all this is done, blah, 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 blah. And they're just casting all these things on you and all this stuff. So, it's been, and it's been seasonal. You get treated well, and the older I got, the more I began to, actually be more of an individual and say, hey, stop talking to me like that, or hey, stop treating me like that, or hey, don't do that to me, don't say that to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, I'm gonna say that part for later. But like whomever said in the comments, it ain't been horrible. Like it ain't been as I've been like a stepchild type of situation, but I ain't it ain't always been great. It could have been better.
That's good. I want to read this one comment that is actually from a pastor. Before you jump in, Pastor Thaddeus, and he says this. He commented and said, "As a pastor, I find the church doesn't give our children respect for having their unique personalities, and they try to take out on our beautiful children what they can't do to us in our face." And so his comment really almost says that you guys also become targets for ridicule, for disrespect and other things, because they may not want to say it to the pastor himself, but if I can say it to his daughter, if I can disrespect his daughter, if I can take it out on his son, that they'd rather do that. And so I thought that comment was spoke very strong to me, coming from another pastor in the comments. I would thank you for sharing that. Come on in, Pastor Thaddeus.
I agree with the sentiments of that pastor in whom commented. That's very true. And definitely with Mr. James and Alesha. When you said that, let me say this to the saints that are listening to us. Praise the Lord. That, Brother Blair is an awesome host. I'm talking about filled with humility, but the hostility that he has brought us into, we were not aware. Not given. So when he got up, I was like, I felt like he was gonna go this way. What's the question again? Because when you said it, like I lost every bit of
Dude, here you go. The question was, do you feel that you have been loved properly and treated right by the church?
So that's
why being a PK. Yes.
When do you feel, you meant like
you
isn't me personally or me for the family?
No. You personally. You personally.
Yeah, I'm gonna be. I'll say it like this. Yes, in the most gracious manner possible. I know at least like Jesus will. Listen, I'm gonna say yes. Like I said, we just celebrated my dad. His birthday was yesterday, and his old church came through and came in numbers, and they brought the mission department wanted to represent at his birthday. He passed the emeritus since 2017 now. But the usher department, the choir, the deacons, the deaconess, they want to bring, and they brought gifts, and they loved on my dad. Now, what I will say is this: both churches definitely love my dad. Did they love me so much? Yes, but I remember. Okay, quick story. Blair, I'll make it real quick. I prophesied my dad's church. My dad ain't big on prophecy, and I'm not a prophet in the office. But and my dad has always been the type where he said, if you say something, make sure the Lord told you, and make sure that was the Lord. Alesha, help me. You can talk to me, please. I'm serious. And I'll never forget this. I prophesied to this girl named Kim. It came up, she testified about how she'd been going through this and the other. I heard real clearly. Tell Kim she get a job in Atmore and the call's gonna come in on a Friday. So I said it as such. That was Sunday. Next Friday rolled around, that Sunday, I preached somewhere else. And one of the deacons, God rest his soul, God rest his soul, he called my dad. Like, Reverend Douglas, how you doing? Doug, like, Deacon, everything good? How's everything going? Well, his son last Sunday told Kim that the Lord told him she gonna get a job on Friday. Now, I didn't say on Friday. I said on a Friday she gonna get a call. He said, his son said she gonna get a job on Friday, and just want to let you know she's still unemployed. And my daddy called me in the room, and he said, look here. He said, I know what you say that you said, but that ain't what they heard. And it taught me a valuable lesson. And in ministry, it teaches us this, ladies and gentlemen, that people will hear what they want to hear. They will excuse what they want to excuse. And lo and behold, about 3 weeks later, after that situation, they had 100 men in black, and it was 200-300 men there. And I went to the service to show my face. I just got called to my first church. But one of the deacons came and said, it's so good to see you, man. He said, do you remember that Sunday you told Kim that she gonna get a job at Atmore and it was gonna come in on a Friday? I said, yes, sir. He said, well, Kim was that Sunday. She was Sunday today, but her mama came and testified for her and said she got a phone call on Friday. She working at this big place up there in Atmore. Man, you keep working in your gift. I learned that some people, like Alesha was talking about earlier, and I know Blair was getting ready to go there. I thank God that God redirected your mind. Some folk don't like your calling, but they sure enough don't like your gift. That's two different avenues. And I would say that some folks just didn't like, I know they didn't like my dad's gift, but they loved that he could preach. Is that I want to ask Alesha a question, but I'm not the host, and I went there. Alesha, y'all, I can feel it. Her and James, they got something. There's something where you could look at the screen and tell that they really want to go a whole nother avenue. But Blair, I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Because welcome to pastoring.
I knew it.
How was Alesha? Come on, help me. How
was the conversation with me?
The conversation with you and your children, because we didn't have now.
So let me tell you. So we sat our kids down to let them know that we were getting ready to go into pasture and explain to them the process and everything, and how it was going to go. And my kids actually were okay with it, because this is the age of our kids. So the two oldest is 32 and 27. Okay. Because they were 9 and 3 when I met my wife. They were 9 years old and 3 years old. She had 2 little girls. And then we had the 2 girls that we had in the marriage, and they are 19 and 15. Okay. So they kind of know that I've been in ministry as a musician and then becoming a minister, preaching the gospel, and I've been a licensed minister since 2018. So they're kind of familiar with me being in ministry and being in the public eye, that kind of thing. And so their questions were more so like, well, what does this mean? Like, what is this going to look like? What is this going to be? And, and I had a conversation with I told them, and I said, the main thing is that y'all don't have to change who you are. You don't have to change who you are. Y'all live your life. I mean, of course, are there going to be things that they're going to do that I'm probably going to wish they wouldn't do? Yes. Are there going to be some things that they're going to do that I'm not going to like, that my wife, we're not going to like? Yes. They do things now we don't like. they make decisions now we don't like. But the point is that this is y'all, you still got to live your life. And I don't want you to have to base your life or what you do or the decisions you make based off of, well, I got to remember daddy's in pastor and daddy's, leading people. I don't want that to be the box for them. I want them to be able to still be who they are and do what they do. And the whole issue of whether you should or shouldn't do it, of course, I'm going to tell you if you shouldn't do it. Okay. But at the end of the day, I'm going to leave that between you and God. You and God decide if you should do that. You and God decide if you should go that route, if you should make that decision. Either way it goes, I'm not going to be ashamed of my kids because of what they do, because of what they decide to do with their lives, because that's their life, and my thing is that in having that conversation with them, it made them feel better about it. It actually made them feel better about it. And they actually had some levels of excitement, also had some levels of nervousness because they don't know how this is going to play out. I had my own levels of nervousness because I don't know how this is going to play out, So I did have that conversation with them, and the conversation went very well because it mattered to us what they thought. Now, what they thought wasn't going to change the fact that this was the call on our life. That wasn't going to change it. Yet and still, it still mattered to me how they felt because I needed to hear, and my wife needed to hear how they felt about it and what they thought about it. And a lot of what they say to be considered, even if it couldn't change the fact that God called us, it still needed to be heard by us, and it still needed to be considered by us in terms of how they felt. So I did have that conversation with them, and I would tell those who are listening, if we have any pastors on who have been listening or any leaders on who have been listening, I would tell you, just based off of the conversation we've had thus far, that it might be a good idea for you to talk to your children, talk to your kids, talk to your sons, talk to your daughters, and see where they are. Not for them to weigh in or to determine whether you should do it or continue to do it, but you need to know how they feel and where their head is with it, because you're not in it by yourself. Your family is in it as well, because when they drag you through the mud, they drag your family through the mud too. Because even though, and this is something that I heard a pastor say many years ago, he said, yeah, the Lord may have called me to pastoring and the church may have called me to pastoring, but all of us came. I came with my wife. I came with my kids. This was a package deal. And so how you treat me is going to affect them. And I think sometimes that's why I wanted, that's the whole point of that. Let me to the question of, do you feel you've been treated properly? Because I think sometimes the church has forgotten that how you treat or mistreat the pastor also affects the kids, because they end up being, a lot of times, as some of you have said, mistreated, taken for granted, not respected as you should be. And so I would implore any leaders who haven't had that conversation, talk to your family about what you're getting ready to walk into or what you've been in it. And let's find out how can, if it hasn't been going well, hey, how can we make it better? What are some things we can do to make it a better experience for you? Because again, they're not in it by themselves. And so I also want to go here. And this is, I'm trying to phrase how I want to ask it. Have you or do you have any possible resentment or regret that your father or your mother went into pastoring? You know, are there times where you wish they would have done something else because of how the experience has gone, because of what you've seen, because of the treatment, because of all the stuff they have to put up with, that with people that they have to love and they have to still serve and they have to still preach to and they have to consider? Do you wish that they would not have gone into it? Would you wish they would have done something else to just not have all of the stuff that came with it? So whoever wants to jump in can jump right in.
I'll go first. I wouldn't say that I wish they wouldn't have chosen the path of, or my daddy wouldn't have chosen the path of pastoring, because I feel like no matter what you choose, if you are a leader, you are going to have these same issues. You're going to still have to serve. You're going to still have to give. It just, you have your set of problems no matter what you choose. So no, I think about what I do as a writer director of my production company. I deal with a lot of what I see my father do. I have to serve and I have to give. The problem is a lot of people don't even understand that leadership is serving. So it doesn't matter. You can't hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, I'm sorry. I seen James do like this. I thought you couldn't hear me. Can you hear me? Okay,
you got audio, James, you can hear?
I don't know if he can. Oh, okay. So yeah, so I just feel like no matter what path they would have chosen, they would have still, I would have still witnessed them have to give and serve. And I also learned so much from them. Watching them lead and serve, it has made me a better leader and a better servant for what I am doing. So no, I wouldn't say that. It's a hard job, but because they were called to it, I know they can do it. It was, the job was for them, you know. So no, I don't think I would have changed their paths if I could. I think it was necessary for everything that I had to endure, everything my siblings and our family and what they had to go through. I think it was necessary. So no, I wouldn't. It was hard, but no, I wouldn't change it.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Alesha. I appreciate you saying that. Anyone else want to jump in? Go ahead, Pastor Thaddeus.
I will say no, because it was a God calling, and I'm glad and I'm grateful that God called my dad to preach and into the pastoral work, and being the help to so many in helping even establish other people's churches and get people into churches to pastor. I just wish it would have been easier. And I know that's a lot to ask for, but easier, and I wish that it had been more respectful from people that just thought that it was a man in a robe getting behind the podium to tell us about the Bible. And in their own finite mind, they have the idea I can just go read the Bible myself and teach myself and tell. I don't need no preacher. I wish you had been more respectful from some. I'm grateful for this. Is
Yeah.
can James hear? Can he hear us? Because he
Yep,
said
he's good. Yeah, your mic's going in and out just a little bit, Pastor Thaddeus.
mine is
Yeah, it's going in and out just a little bit, just a little bit.
just a little. Okay,
That's good there. Whatever you did, that's good.
what I did. Okay, I apologize.
Yep. You fine? You still talking? You good? Oh, you good? Okay.
I'm good. Oh no.
Oh, okay. All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Got you.
I
Okay.
easier.
Okay. Come on, James.
Okay, so let me this disclaimer. I don't know what happened the last 5 or 7 minutes, but all I was able to catch was the Facebook audio. I had to log into that really quick, so I missed, and I apologize. I missed the this particular question or comment. So can you
Okay.
please restate that?
Oh, absolutely. I was saying, do you have any regrets, or do you wish that your father had, or your father, your mother, because I know they're both leading, but do you wish that they would have done something else and not gone into pastoring based on the experience that you have had as their son and what you've had to see, what you've had to endure, what you've had to deal with? Do you ever wish they would have did something else?
It's a great question. And this is strong. This is strong to unpack because there's a lot of different dynamics involved. From a selfish perspective, yes. From a selfish perspective, yes, because like we talked about a little while ago, what they've had to endure and go through and sacrifice and all those different things along the journey. You know what I mean? And then being the eldest son, watching your parents go through certain struggles and all these different things and nuances, challenges, and all these things throughout life, it's tough to watch. It's tough to experience. It's tough to just look at. And the reality of it is this: there's nothing you can do about it. You're just kind of watching and observing and like, what is going on? You know what I'm saying? So there are those moments. There is that facet where I feel like it's I don't know why y'all want to do this. That leads me to you know that leads me to what happened for me, like in one aspect. Now that I'm involved in this capacity for myself, um now that I'm involved in this capacity for myself, is this something that I want to pursue? You know what I mean? Is it something I knowing what can potentially happen? Is it something that I want to endure or go through? That's the selfish aspect of it. However, there's the other side of it, which is this, and this question again, it's a lot to unpack, so I may just go over time just a little bit, and I apologize by doing so. Um, I do know in the same breath, had they not pursued their callings and gone through what they gone through, it would incomplete them as individuals. You know what I mean? That's the other aspect of it. Although it's tough for them, I know in the same breath, this gives them that inner peace, that inner joy, that strength that they need. You know what I mean? It's almost like, somebody being somewhere in that perfect fit versus somebody being somewhere in a place where they could just be to survive, or they could be in a place where they can thrive. You know what I mean? I've watched them, as tough as things may have been, I see the grace that they've been allowed and given through all of this. You know what I mean? There's a level of grace that comes along that God has given pastors, not just my parents, but pastors as a whole. You know what I mean? Pastors and shepherds and bishops, apostles, teachers, whatever the case may be. There's a certain grace that comes along with it that they're allowed and given. You know what I mean? But from a selfish perspective, I absolutely wish they would have gone into something else. Yes.
Good. That is good. I wanted to read another comment. This has been really, really good, and people are really commenting in these comments tonight. And one of the comments said, "I never wish they would have done something else, but I sometimes wonder where we would be if they hadn't started pastoring. Would we be as spiritually mature as we are now? Would we be as dedicated to ministry? Would we still be in church? Would we still be walking in our calling?" And I thought that comment was very, very, very pointed, especially the part of would we still be in church? Because the truth is, this life has some PKs have gotten lost. And not only have they gotten lost, but some of them have gotten lost right out of the church because for whatever reason, and again, this is what I've been told in conversations that I've had, that there are some who absolutely despise the church now because of what happened and because of how things went and because of what came against their parents and because of what as they had to endure, that some of them just they despise the church. They literally want to have nothing to do with the church because of that experience. And those kind of things, they hurt your heart a little bit, and they make you really think, and that's one of the things that really made me consider, like, I want to hear how these people really feel about this, because it can't be as nice as it's sometimes painted to be. And so as we kind of cut to, well, before I go to a close, if there's anything anybody else want to jump in and say, you can jump right in and say it. Nope. Okay. All right. I just wanted to give space. I want to make sure that everybody said what they wanted to say. But as we go to a close, and I want to thank everybody who's jumped on tonight and have been commenting and being a part of this conversation, because I thought this was a great and powerful conversation. I think there was a lot of truth spoken tonight, and a lot of real talk that came out. And so as we go to a close, I want to give each of you the opportunity. I want you to speak to other PKs. Let me get James back. Okay, there he is. All right, he's back. So I want to give you all the space and opportunity to speak to other PKs out there who may be having a hard time dealing with this life. And so I want you to speak something to them that will give them some level of encouragement, some level of peace, if you will, to kind of help them to really navigate through living in this life. And then I want you to speak to the church at large. And I want you to give the church some wisdom as to what the church can do better in terms of really treating and supporting you all being the first family. Because the church does everything for the pastor. They go all out for the pastor. They don't always do that for the first family. And sometimes the church can separate the pastor and the first family. So I want you to speak to the PKs who may be struggling with this life and give them some encouragement and some wisdom to help them navigate it. And then I also want you to speak to the church and give the church some insight and some wisdom as to how the church can be a better support and how the church can love you and treat you all a whole lot better. So whoever wants to start can start. Just go ahead and unmute yourself and go right on in.
I'm gonna go ahead and start.
Okay, go ahead.
This is so good, and it's so loaded. But from my standpoint, speaking to other PKs, I will honestly tell you guys, don't be afraid to become. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to break out of the box that they put you inside of if that is not where you're called to be. A lot of times that is not where you're called to be. So don't allow them to create your narrative. It's okay to be human. We all fall. We all make mistakes. These are just people, you know? And if I could talk to the church, I wish that they will understand that the first family, we're people too, you know? Sometimes we're not treated as humans. Sometimes we're not allowed to make mistakes and still be loved. Even with the millennials, to the church, learn how to embrace and listen and hear us. What we have to say, what we're going through. What we're going through may not look like what you're going through, but a lot of times what we're going through actually do look like what you've been through, but you have not told us, or you want to come off perfect. We need to hear that you understand. We need to hear that you have fallen too. Don't let us feel like we're by ourselves in this, because that's what makes us shy away from the church. That's what make us, and to be honest, we need you guys, especially with the first family and with the younger crew, when we have to be there. We don't have a choice because mommy and daddy said we got to come to church. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord and we got to be there in y'all space. Learn how to love on us, talk to us, see what's going on in our world, and find ways to cater to that. So yeah.
That was good. That you had something else? If you got something else, you can say it. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, James or Pastor Thaddeus, whoever wants to go.
Obedient, and I'm being obedient. Well, as Alesha have already alluded to, you know, learning who you are, to the PKs out there, young, older, whatever the age frame may be, learn who you are as an individual and what God has, you know, placed within yourself. That's a great place to start. Identification of yourself or your own identity is paramount. And that doesn't mean you won't be a part of the church order or the order of ministry. It doesn't mean you won't be, and it doesn't mean, you know, we all have our different paths. I will also say this, you know, one thing that's very important, throughout all of this is that when we take the time to invest in ourselves and begin to do introspective work within ourselves, you know, we have a much better sight on what our trajectory is in life. Once we, you know, find out what that is, we can kind of pinpoint, we can kind of isolate and kind of tunnel our vision, to follow that role. As Pastor Douglas mentioned a little while ago, no matter how much I ran, I knew a long time ago that what my calling is and was. I knew a long time ago. I wasn't always very accepting of it. And, you know, if I'm just being super transparent, you know, there are times now when I'll be like, man, I want to do something else, because, you know that there's a lot attached to being in that vein of ministry. And, you know, some of those things are unavoidable. Certain things are avoidable. But to the kids, and learn who you are and God has placed within you, what he invested in, that he's looking for come out of you. And to the pastors out there, I would say this, and mom and dad, if you're listening, other pastors, if you're listening, it's a very, very great source of communication, to have that communication, to start to have that communication and find out what's what. Because the reality of it is this: when my parents grew up in PKs, the world looked a lot different than what it does now. The dynamic and makeup of America and what the church world looks like is much different than it looked back then when they were coming up. You know what I mean? When they were growing up, and we can only imagine years from things are going to continue to evolve and change. So the same things we went through, though I should say that they went through back then, we may still go through the same type of things to a degree, but there are a lot more intricacies involved. There's a lot more going on. So having those conversations, being supportive, talking, and just being there to, have those maybe heart to heart, hard or tough, sensitive conversations will go a long way. And I think they will do a lot of good, for PKs and for their parent to have that conversation. Is very important.
Awesome. Appreciate that. Come on, Pastor Thaddeus, close us out.
Can you hear me? I want to make sure you can hear me good.
We can hear you.
Okay. I would say to the PKs, I have two sons, 9 and 6, and my baby boy often says, "Dad, I watch you on YouTube, and I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to be a preacher." But they often want to be the president of the United States. They want to be a judge. They want to be a lawyer. They want to be a doctor. They're young. I want to say to the PKs that are here, be whatever you want to be, and let God groom you in whatever priesthood and lineage of ministry that he has for you. You don't have to be like dad or mom. I always wanted to be like my dad, and that kind of hindered me from me finding who else I could become. Scripture that says, "For we have not many fathers." It's 1 Corinthians 4:15. For we have not many fathers. We got many instructors, but we have not many fathers. I encourage the PKs, sit down with your parent, your mother or father who is in ministry. Get as many instructions and directions and words of wisdom, encouragement, knowledge concerning the scripture as much as possible. Learn from experience. Learn in silence. Remember that everything does not deserve a response. You have a right to keep your sanity. Thou shalt keep you in perfect peace. That you are a righteous nation. I want to say to the people that are designed to cover the man of God and family, he deserves double honor. And because he deserves double honor, his family deserves double honor. So many times, the pastor goes to sleep and his wife has to cover him in prayer, pray for him, give him encouragement without knowing all the details of the negativity that comes from those that are around them. And then she has to protect her children, that it's okay for you to play around with such and such while we at church, but no, you ain't doing no sleepovers there. because we do understand that everybody don't have your best interest at heart as well. And Mama Nim, if she can't see you, if you get out of her sight, oh no, that's a problem. So my encouragement to the world, to the church, is to love on the man or woman of God. And as my and Pastor Alfonso Bowman would say, love your pastor. Take care of your pastor. Anybody talks bad about your pastor, you should be the first to defend. Step up and stand for your man or woman of God and love him or her and that family. That's what I definitely want to say. And in addition to that, I just want to say I'm humbled. I really am to be on this platform. Thank you so kindly to Pastor Blair Troublefield, one of the baddest musicians of New York as a whole. I've known of him for years. We met through Clubhouse officially, but he started following me years ago on Periscope. Wife, awesome psalmist, and singer, songwriter, and congratulations to church and the ministry. Thank you for thinking of me to be on this locker room space, and humbled to be Pastor Bowman II and Evangelist Lady Alesha. Listen, we didn't get that far as titles are concerned, so I'm just going. That's what I thought. My apologies. But fact of the matter is, I'm humbled to be on this space, man, and I love you. Anything you need from me, ma'am, I'd be more than honored to look out for a brother, because that's what we're supposed to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Listen, thank you to each of my panelists, man. This has been a great conversation tonight. Very, very insightful. And I think that we have done some great things to kind of really, really give a true picture of what this life is like for the family that has to be with, or that comes with every pastor. He has a family that's with him too. And I think we have really shown a light on some of the truth of what it's really like. And I hope that we have helped the church at large to kind of have a different understanding that will cause them to have a different level of compassion and a different level of understanding as to what is really needed, and how you all should really be treated and loved on. And that more than anything else is that we can make it understood that you guys matter. You matter. You really, really matter. And that you deserve levels of consideration, levels of care, levels of compassion, because you are an intricate part of the equation. Because I can tell you myself, even before launching into us leading our own ministry, that it would be hard for me to have done everything that I have done in ministry if I didn't have a family supporting me. It would be extremely difficult if I didn't have my wife and my kids supporting me and being understanding of what it is that I'm doing, and oftentimes even them having to deal with levels of disrespect and levels of being cast aside. And so it's important that we understand that we got to that as a church, we have to handle these first families right. We there's a lot we can do better, and I hope tonight that we have shed a light on that and given some levels of truth to it, so that we can start to see a shift and change as it relates to that in the church. And so I thank each of you, to Alesha, and James and Pastor Thaddeus, thank you guys. Thank Sister Karen for being on. She was on for as long as she could be on it. And unfortunately, she had to drop off. But I thank her even for what she gave us in the beginning. I appreciate you guys being on tonight and sharing your heart. This turned out even greater than I thought it was going to be. This conversation tonight. So I am extremely happy and grateful that you guys jumped on and were able to be with us tonight. I do want to say to everyone on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter tonight, thank you for joining in, for tuning in with me on the Locker Room. A lot of you hang with me every month. You log in every month and you are listening to the conversation. You're commenting. A lot of you have been with me since I started this back in August of 2020. So we've been at this for a pretty good while. And I'm just grateful that you all continue to support the Locker Room and you share, you like the flyers, you share the flyer. So I appreciate you supporting this platform. And I will tell you that we will be back in the month of November. We'll be back with more great conversation, more great panelists here on the Locker Room. So please be keeping a watch on your social media. You will see the flyer come through and the day and the time that we'll be having this conversation. And so with that, I'm going to say thank you all. We're going to let you guys go. My panelists, don't go anywhere just yet. We're just going to end the stream on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. And so to our Facebook, YouTube family, on behalf of myself, my wife, Tonette, and all of us here at the Locker Room, I thank you. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you next month on the Locker Room. Have a great rest of your night and an even greater week. We love you. Good night.